This is one of the worship paintings I do just about every Sunday at New Creation. This was done in an actual service. It took about 10 minutes. It's simple and fast, and if you're an artist, I challenge you to give it a try. The passage for the message is John 4, 1-42. It's the story of the woman at the well. Jesus was heading to Galilee from Judea. There were two ways to get there. The first was the way most of the religious leaders of Jesus' day would have taken, which was the long way. And then there was the short way. That's the way that Jesus took. He went right through a place called Samaria. The other religious leaders of Jesus' day would have walked miles out of their way to go around Samaria because there was a long-standing hatred between them and the Samaritans. Jesus was having no parts of that. Jesus arrived at a well in a town called Sychar. There was no running water at that time, so the women of the town would come to the well early in the morning and early in the evening to get their daily water. Around noon, no one should have been there, but someone was. A woman came to the well in the middle of the heat of the day. Why would she come then? She wanted to avoid the prying eyes of the other women. She couldn't face them. She had something to hide. She had lived a messed up life, and she had a bad reputation. All she wanted to do was get her water and get back home. But Jesus was there, and he asked for a drink. And this was a big problem. Jesus was a Jew, and he was a rabbi. The woman was a Samaritan, and those two groups ordinarily didn't speak to each other. She didn't know Jesus, she didn't trust him, and she certainly didn't want to do anything for him. Jesus said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Well, she didn't understand what Jesus was offering. She didn't see how he was in a position to give her anything. He had no jar and the well was too deep. Jesus tried to explain that the living water he was offering was something spiritual, the Holy Spirit that would meet her needs, change her life, and take care of her all the way to eternity. She still didn't believe him. 500 years of hatred will do that to you. She needed proof, and Jesus gave it to her. In verse 16 of the passage, he told her, go and call your husband and come back. She replied, I have no husband. Do you think Jesus didn't know she wasn't married? No, Jesus is about to show her he knows her better than she knows herself. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you have now is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Jesus confronts her on her sin, but it's more than that. Jesus approaches her at the area of her deepest need, her greatest area of brokenness. He's not doing this to be mean or judgmental. He's like a surgeon treating her disease. She needs a sign, so she will believe, and he gives it to her. She tries to change the subject, but Jesus explains that he has come to draw all people to himself, that we might worship him in spirit and in truth, that we might worship God in spirit and in truth. His worshipers, his followers, need to follow his word and live out his truth. We need to be real and loving with open arms. Jesus reached out to this woman at the place of her deepest need, and we need to do the same. We all need to go to our own Samaria. We need to reach out to people much of the church ignores. Guys, as we sit in our churches on Sunday morning, some of the greatest preachers that will ever live, some of the greatest evangelists, some of the people that will lead millions to Christ are at home, sleeping off a hangover, waking up in strange beds, or prison cots, or homeless shelters, or under cardboard boxes and bridges. They have a mighty call in their lives, and God will not let them go. And they are waiting for a few of us not only to welcome them if they come, but to go to Samaria just like Jesus. Think about what Jesus did that day. Jesus took the path that no one else in his position would take. He went to a people that have hated his people and been hated by his people for over 500 years. He talks to the biggest outcast and the most unlikely evangelist whose life was still the biggest mess in her whole community at the worst hour of the day, and guess what happened? The woman left her water jar and went back to her town and told them, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? They came out of the town and made their way toward him. And in verse 39 we read, many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. Who are the Samaritans in your community? Maybe it's time you gave them a drink of the living water.